let's start with what is Scrum. Now, Scrum is a simple framework to develop complex products in a complex environment, right? It's a simple framework to develop complex products in a complex environment, right? And it's a very, very popular agile framework. Now, in order to understand Scrum, we'll go through some basic concepts first. We'll go through some of the important artifacts that are used in Scrum. And one of the very popular artifact is product backlog. Now, can you see product backlog on the screen in front of you guys?
Yes.
Right? Now, what do you see in this product backlog? Is it collection of the requirements?
Yeah, it will be a collection of the requirement on.
Can you see collection requirements within the product backlog from requirement 1 to requirement 20?
Yeah.
So, just to simplify, I have shown it as collection of requirement, but it is collection of work to be done in the project, right? Right? It's a kind of a centralized repository from where the work is taken, right? Now, it can contain requirements, it can contain change request, it can contain, bug fixes. All the work to be done in the project will be taken through a product backlog. Now, how it is different from a scope statement, right? When we follow predictive and incremental approaches, the work is taken from a scope statement, right? Or a statement of work. How a product backlog is different from statement of work or a scope statement, guys?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
How a product backlog is different from scope statement or a statement of work?
This backlog is the activities like in R&D we have we are developing this one new product, and this is list of the activities for that product.
See,
work breakdown.
Work to be done in the project can be defined in a scope statement and a work breakdown structure also, right? And a product backlog also contain the work to be done in the project, which includes all the requirements, right? Bug fixes, change request, everything will be sourced from the product backlog. Now, how it is different from a scope statement? Now, see, when we were talking about scope statement, right, or a work breakdown structure, we were talking about freezing, right? We sign off the scope, we freeze it, we create a boundary. Did we discuss boundary while discussing about the scope statement or not? Now, unlike the typical statement of work or scope statement, you don't freeze a product backlog, it's emergent. And see, product backlog is an artifact for managing the requirements or managing the work, right, in an agile context. And in the agile context, will the work be emergent, right? Or can we freeze it at any point of time? Tell me, guys.
You can't freeze it.
Right? So product backlog is emergent, right? Now, another important thing, right? The focus of agile is to deliver value, right? The focus in agile is to deliver value. So at any point of time, the product backlog will be prioritized. When I say product backlog is prioritized, it means that the high value requirement should always be at the top. The acronym D describes the characteristics of a good product backlog. Now, D in this acronym, D stands for detail appropriately. E stands for emergent. Another E stands for estimable, and P stands for prioritized. Now, a good product backlog is characterized by an acronym DEEP, where D stands for detailed appropriately, which means that, right, at any point of time, you do not freeze the product backlog. Now, in a product backlog, the high priority user stories or requirements that are at the top, right, should be detailed, uh, should be highly detailed, right, should be granular. Whereas those requirements which are at lower end of the product backlog, right, can be less detailed. A product backlog is emergent, right? You do not freeze a product backlog. You do not sign off a product backlog. In an agile environment, right, the requirements are emergent. So the product backlog is also emergent. Now, at any point of time, you should estimate the size of the product backlog. Now, those requirements which are high priority one at the top of the product backlog, you can have a more precise and definitive estimates for those requirements because they have to be addressed in the immediate sprints. Whereas you can have high level estimates for the for those requirements that are on the lower end of the product backlog. Now, but at any point of time, the product backlog should be estimable. Now, P in the acronym DEEP stands for prioritized, right? In a product backlog, the high priority requirement should always be at the top. In this course, we are going to learn about various prioritization techniques, right? Such as paired comparison method, such as 100-point or $100 method, and weighted shortage of first, right? So items in the product backlog, at a macro level, can be prioritized based on the value, cost, and risk, right? We'll learn about it later. But at any point of time, the product backlog should be prioritized.